Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. When I was sitting watching TV, I was flipping through YouTube, which is what I watch an awful lot, and Amazing Grace came on, sung by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I think it was recorded pre-pandemic, but it could have been recorded in the pandemic just as easily because they were outside, socially distanced in a field, singing, and there were bagpipes and mist going over. And anyway, the pentatonic tune Amazing Grace has been in my head since then, so I thought I would sit down at the piano and see what I could do just for and something came to me that I thought might be helpful to those of you that are pianists in a church. So here's the scenario. 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday, we were doing our usual YouTube recording at one of the churches that I serve. And we make these YouTube recordings and they go out on the church website on Sunday so that people who are still uncomfortable coming out in public can have something of a church experience at home, right? Okay, well anyway, I don't remember the scenario, but the priest, the top guy. Why can't I remember what the top priest is called in the Episcopal Church? Anyway, the guy in charge of the church. We have a priest and a curate and a deacon, and so the priest in charge said from across the room, "Hey Derek, play some music while X, Y, and Z happens." Right. Play some music while X, Y, and Z happens. Now, I'm old enough and I have enough experience that does not scare the tar out of me. But I remember the days when that would have scared the tar out of me. And this is what I would have done when I was a young pup. I would immediately have started flapping through whatever book was on the piano, maybe opening it up to something horrible and trying my best to make my way through it, because in the olden days I was positively dependent upon the written page, right? Couldn't really do much at all. Now, over the last 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, I have developed a level of comfort with making stuff up on the spot called improvisation, right? And I've sort of specialized in a liturgical style of improvisation. And here's the distinction: liturgical improv versus just plain old regular improv that you're doing for yourself or at a bar or wherever it is that you have called to make improv. The difference is, and you better remember this because this makes or breaks it for you, the difference with liturgical improv is it does not interrupt the vertical relationship of the parishioner with his Lord. Regular, normal, secular improv has a horizontal relationship between the performer and the listener. We don't want that horizontal relationship between the performer and the listener, or the listener and the other parishioners. We don't want to bring people back down to the plane of the earth once they have made it into a prayer state, okay? So, especially at times like communion, and communion is going to be a time when you get to do a lot of improv. At least that's in my church, that's when I get to do a lot of it. I want to be absolutely certain that I do not pull the people back down from their euphoric state or from their state of deep prayer or personal reflection. I don't want to ruin that for them at all by playing anything that pulls them back down into the reality of this earth, of this plane, right? So that's why I would never, ever, ever, ever introduce a secular tune at that point. Would never do it. And I wouldn't even hint at it, and I wouldn't introduce secular motifs either in that time, all right? I would keep it all very, very pretty. Now, depending on the type of congregation I'm playing for, if I'm playing for a Baptist congregation, I'm just going to do a lot of stuff on basic chords. Right? If I'm in a church that has a hymnal, that sticks with a hymnal, and where the parishioners know a body of hymns, I'm going to use one of those hymns that's in the body of their hymns, to keep them in a prayerful state, because that's my job, right? Okay, so that brings me to the whole purpose of this video today, and I'll get to it right now. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give all of you who are amateur pianists in a church a fresh idea, and you have my permission to copy it. In fact, I would be perfectly flattered if you copied it note for note right now. So what I'm doing is Amazing Grace on a static bordun. Let me repeat that. Amazing Grace on a static, an unchanging bordun, which means a repeated chord bass. Bordun, B-O-R-D-U-N. A static chord on a bordun bass, okay? Amazing Grace, I'm going to play an F. It is a pentatonic melody, and that is no accident, okay? A bordun bass only works with a pentatonic melody. Okay, that's the beauty of pentatonics. All right, now there's Amazing Grace. Now that's Amazing Grace in triple time. Now I'm going to play for you Amazing Grace in common time. 4 beats. Okay, now it's in 4 beats. Right? As soon as you've got that down, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Because everybody puts that fermata in there, right? Okay. All right, now, here's the fun part. Long time ago in the classical period, Alberti basses developed. Right? That's kind of like a bordun bass of the day, right? So I'm doing something that's bordun-like, but I only want to make the suggestion of a chord, and I want to avoid anything that ruins the pentatonic-ness of my pentatonic melody. So here's what I came up with. A major 7th, which is just, oh gosh, one of my favorite sounds in the world, right? It's such a neat thing to mix other major 7ths with. Like here's a completely unrelated major 7th other than the fact that it starts on the 5th. Listen to these two 7ths together. Right? I mean, how gorgeous is that? This is an E minor 7 on top of an F 7 because they have that common tone. Right? Did you know you could do that? Okay, here's what I've done. F, A, C, E. I take that common tone E, E, G, B, D. It has a little bit too much dissonance in it for most listeners, but okay, so I'm in F, I've got my major 7th, and I'm going to take the 3rd out of it because I want to get away from that Eric Satie sound, right? That gymnopédie sound. I want to get rid of that by taking out my 3rd. So now I'm F, C, E, okay? And now I'm going to roll that in Alberti style. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? Now the next chord is not really a different chord. It's just a variation of this one. I'm going to move the E down to a D. All right? And now just to add a tiny bit of gravy on top of this roast beef, right? I'm going to add tonic dominant. So listen to this. First chord. Now. Right? Okay? And in my head I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. How fresh, right? How about that? Little ornament, right? Now, since I love that so much, clearly I love that. Now, what else can I do with that? I can take it down an octave, right? Taking it down an octave kind of just darkens it up. Maybe I'm going to fill in a little bit like this. Maintaining the pentatonic notes in the scale. So maybe this is a good time to remind you what pentatonic means. Okay, if we're in the key of F, pentatonic means do, re, mi, sol, la. Do, re, mi, sol, la. In numbers, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. No 7 and no 4. Okay? No 7, no 4. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Does that not sound like Claude Debussy already? Right? Yeah. Okay, so anyway, pentatonic. And the whole song Amazing Grace is pentatonic. It doesn't use 4 or 7. Okay, so now, just say I've repeated through that again. Here's my original bordun again. I kind of love it. It's really great. I'm going to use it this week. Okay, now, the logical place to go is the relative minor of F pentatonic, which is D. And now, okay, now, let me explain that. All right, this is what I did here. I did a D, A, C, D, A, C. That's the same thing as our minor 7. Remember we were talking about our minor 7s? There's our minor 7. Get rid of the third. Okay? Remember we were here before. This is the same thing, but down on down on D rather, down on D. And then, instead of what I did before, I'm going to go to G major in the second inversion. I'm sorry, there's no third inversion. So here's D minor, sort of, D minor without that third, major 7, to the G major second inversion. Now, just between me and you, this is a secret. That's actually boogie woogie bass. That's the boogie woogie bass, which brings me back to, I'll tell you this quick story. When I was a little kid living in Montgomery, Alabama, playing this very, very same piano with my mom, whatever we were doing that night or whatever we were playing, we did duets a lot together, but we did boogie woogie duets, right? Boogie woogie, right? She'd be down here. I'd be doing all that stuff, right? Well, this boogie woogie bass, okay, obviously, I don't even need to say that. You'd never, ever, ever, ever do anything like that in church. Never, ever, ever, ever do anything like that in church, right? You would, yeah. No, I don't think you'd lose your job. No, I don't even think there would be many things that were said, but the reality of it is you have failed as a church musician because you have not increased and permitted and allowed and enhanced the prayer of the people. Instead, you have yanked them with great hostility back to this plane of the earth, okay, which is a no-no. That's not what we're there for. So anyway, back to the boogie woogie. What I'm using for this Amazing Grace is half of that boogie woogie bass. Okay, but I'm only using this part and this part. But I love the sound together because we have that minor sound going to major. Now, here's the real cool part. I'm not going to change the fact that I'm playing Amazing Grace up here in the key of F. I'm going to still play it in the key of F, but I'm going to do it with a harmonization that has just a touch more dissonance to it, because to me that causes self-reflection, all right? The dissonance that we play when done properly and done tastefully increases the self-awareness, I think, of the congregant, of the person praying. Okay, so see what you think of this. So in other words, after I got done doing this, okay, so there's the end of our verse, right? I'm going to repeat the right hand. right? Dissonance, right? I've still got Amazing Grace in F, in common time. More dissonance is coming right here. Ah! Right? Self-reflection, I hope. And a lot of that is in how musically you play it, right? How nuanced you play it, whether you get away with it. I'm going to do it again for you. Now, I wouldn't want to stay here too long. Because we don't want to make them too sad. Right? Okay, now as soon as I can get back, I'm going to get back into F major. I needed some bass. Oops, foul note. Okay, now how do I end it? By all means, you don't resolve it. Right? Okay, you got to be pretty old to get away with stuff like that, all right? You got to have you have to have laid the groundwork long ago of your expertise, I guess, before you can pull off too much stuff like that. Now, in the beginning of this video, I started to tell you a story about how Father Blake from across the room said, "Derek, play some music while I go get the baptistry filled." It was something like that, right? It was something, can't remember. But in the middle of things with cameras rolling, I had to come up with a quick something. And if I had wasted time trying to find it in a book, the moment would have been gone. So I went to my safe place, musically speaking, which is Oh Wally Wally. You know, Dr. Tim Banks just recently corrected my pronunciation. I've been calling it Wally Wally, but apparently it's Whaley. I'm sorry, Whaley. There it is. Oh Whaley Whaley. Oh Whaley Whaley. All right, if you happen to be Scottish and that's not correct, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, that tune is Oh Whaley Whaley, which is The Water is Wide, and several other tunes. In fact, it's beginning to show up in a lot of hymnals. It's in most hymnals, and it's almost a pentatonic, almost, except for that 4 and 7. 4. Okay, so I just went to that place. Oh, I went back to Amazing Grace. Okay, let me see it. I've still got Amazing Grace in my head. How about that C in there? You didn't expect that. Just goes to show you that not everything works well. Deceptive cadence? D major has to happen. G major. Right? thank you for spending some time with me today. Do you want to know what this is about? I had surgery on October 13th, and it's been repaired. It's a torn biceps ligament. I'll give you a quick, just so you know, it wasn't my foolishness. It was not in the gym, and it was not on a motorcycle. It wasn't on a dirt bike. Just so you know, but that's all I'm going to tell you. But anyway, thank you all for listening, and I wish you the very, very best of luck in your careers as church musicians. God bless.